It is Tuesday, the 23rd of June, 2020. Welcome to Business Redefined. You're just in time for your most comprehensive weekly look at the world of business and economics. I am Julian Amboko. And remember, you can be part of this conversation by tweeting at NTV Kenya at AmbokoJH. The hashtag is Business Redefined. Tonight, we are focusing on the cooperative movement, savings, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, 732 billion shillings worth of deposits and 700 billion shillings worth of loans. These are just some of the metrics which show us the significance of the cooperative movement in Kenya's formal financial services sector. How has this sector been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic? What mitigative measures have been taken in view of the economic downturn? Now, shortly, I will be joined by the Principal Secretary in the State Department of Cooperatives, that is Ali Nur Ismail. But before that, let's take a look at some of the key metrics in the deposits-taking segment of this sector. And if you look at this graphic on the screen, it is indicating that in terms of large SACCOs, and I should clarify that this is only the deposit taking, unlike what I was mentioning earlier. We have about 27 of them, and their total asset base is about 325.87 billion shillings. Now, the way we define large by the SASRA definition is by looking at any SACCO which has a capital base, an asset base rather, of above 5 billion shillings. The medium size, there are 57 in number with about 135 billion shillings, and that is any SACCO which has asset base between 1 and 4.9 billion shillings. And then the small tier, which has about 90 of them, which is the majority, has an asset base of 33.8 billion shillings. So in total, the deposit taking by the SASRA registered about 174 rather, and their total assets are 495.25 billion shillings. Crossing over, let's look at it in terms of membership. Now, majority, that's about 3.5 million Kenyans who are active in this sector, qualify for active membership, which means they're making their remittances every so often, and another 676.0 thousand people are in the dormant membership. So these are the guys who SACCOs are trying to follow up just to try and incentivize them to continue making their deposits and boosting their savings. And to our final metric, which we'd like to look at today in terms of the loan book. And remember, I should just clarify again, this is only the deposit-taking ones. Between 2016 and 2018, the growth has been quite substantial, coming from about 297.6 billion shillings up to about 374 billion shillings. And therefore, this is why SACCOs are playing a significant role in terms of the formal financial services. But now let's get into our conversation with PS Ali Nur, who is in the State Department of Cooperatives. PS, welcome on set. And many are just curious to know, how has the cooperative movement been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic?
Thank you, Amboko, for having me. I will, first of all, let me say that the cooperative sector, like every other sector of the economy of this country, and even globally, has not been spared, and therefore it has been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, if I can categorize this impact in three areas, I would there is a financial impact, there is operational impact, and there is also logistical impact. Now, let me start with the financial impact. We have seen, for example, that key sectors, cooperatives in key sectors that have been impacted greatly by the COVID-19 have actually been affected. I am talking about the aviation sector, the travel industry, that is, hospitality. I am talking about horticulture. I'm also talking about the transport sector, the SMEs. So we realize, and even construction and even cooperatives that are in the trade sector, we have seen that they have been impacted greatly by the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, what are the nature of these impacts? One, we have seen actually loan repayments have been impacted. We have also seen that loan deposits, or savings for that matter, have also been impacted. We have also seen that there is, people are not borrowing as they used to borrow previously, because there is a bit of uncertainty, but also partly because of the fact, especially for long-term borrowing, but partly because of the fact that the umbrella SACCO body, Kenya Union of Savings and Credit Cooperatives, known as KUSCO, has also told the members, together with the regulator SASRA, to actually borrow on a short-term basis. Okay. We have seen a few instances of panic withdrawal, not because people want to withdraw the money, but actually they do not have an alternative source of income, and therefore they have come back to those savings in order to be able to use them for their day-to-day. But again, I must qualify once again that this impact we see largely in the SME sector and those sectors that have actually been greatly impacted by the COVID-19. But majority of the larger SACCOs, generally in the month of April, in the month of May, there hasn't been any significant change. We have started to see a very marginal change, probably in this month of June, where there is some evidence of a bit of stagnation or a slight decline. This is really how the financial impact has been. Now, when I come to the operational impact, what has happened is that people now have to work virtually. They have to work remotely. So the cooperative societies are not able to actually work in the way that they used to work. Now, what are the implications here? The implications are that for small SACCOs, the SACCOs have now to invest in ICT. The bigger SACCOs, of course, can afford this, but for the smaller SACCOs, that poses a challenge. And therefore, there's that implication. Then logistically, it has impacted on the movement. We are a large movement where members move around all the time for different reasons. Of course, among other things, mobilization or even the very membership that are members of this very important sector. That also has been impacted. So generally, I will summarize the impact in that manner.
All right. And PS, many are curious to know, we have had a lot of mitigating measures, largely from the banking sector by way of restructuring of loans. Is this happening in the cooperative movement?
Yes, Julius, that is happening. Immediately the coronavirus pandemic hit our country. We as a cooperative movement came together and we set up the Cooperative Coronavirus Response Committee. The objective of this committee was actually to supplement government efforts in mitigating the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. What did we do? First, we started raising money on a voluntary basis within the movement. Through this, we have been able to raise so far 11 million shillings, and we have been able to spend about 4.5 million so far of that amount on members of cooperatives, as well as members of the Kenyan community, in order to give them relief in terms of some source of, some food. Now, what did we do? We partnered with Tuskys, and we had a kit called COP Kit. This is a kit which has got some maize meal, it has some beans, it has some oil, it has some toiletries in terms of hygiene, and we have been able to give relief to about 5,000 members, of which 80% are cooperative members who have been impacted, by the COVID-19, especially industrial area. And the other 20% are actually members of the larger Kenyan community who have been targeted through the government vulnerability assessment, through the district, the deputy county commissioners. So through this program, we have been able to reach 5,000 persons and given them relief. Number two, through the umbrella body, Cusco, we have been able to advise SACCOs to be able to restructure where the loan restructuring may be necessary as a measure of relief. We have been able to, through Cusco again, advise them to actually concentrate on or give out short-term loans, because then they're easier to pay and they do not put a burden. And again, because of the uncertainty, you are not able to take a longer view of actually a loan which will go too much into the future. At the same time, we have been able to provide a psychosocial support center at Cusco. We are currently installing a toll-free line, and we intend to provide counselors who will then be able to counsel members of the cooperative movement who have been impacted by the COVID-19. You will agree with me, Julius, that not only has there been financial and other impact, but in fact there has been psychological impact brought about by the COVID-19. Then, in addition, we have told the SACCOs through Cusco again, where there is a panic withdrawal, speak to the members and see whether, in fact, you can be able to give them a short-term lending, which is equivalent to what they have in savings, so that they do not actually withdraw. And then finally, we have been able to, through a circular by the Commissioner for Cooperative, we have told SACCOs to pay dividends to their members so that they have some liquidity, and this decision of the payment of the dividends would be ratified in AGMs or annual delegates meeting at a future date. Finally, we are undertaking a study on the real impact of the COVID-19 in this sector, so we can be able to come out with the numbers and see how we can re-strategize and retool the sector if, in fact, the COVID-19 becomes the new normal. Because one thing we have seen, for example, we have not been focusing on health cooperatives, but we have seen from this experience of COVID-19 that actually they will be very handy in a situation like this. Okay. And of course, because of other problems such as cancer and some of the diseases that we have seen in the country in the recent past.
Okay. And the question out here is, if you look at the fourth schedule of the Constitution, the 2010 Constitution, I should say, it provides that management of cooperatives is a devolved function. How are you coordinating with county governments this response?
Thank you, Amboko. Now, Julius, you will agree with me that at the beginning, we all thought that the COVID was actually a problem that was only here for the short time, and then it will go away, or a solution will be found. It will now look like it is actually the new normal, and we are told that it may actually be with us until probably a cure is either found or a vaccine is actually found. Now, cognizant of this fact, we had largely concentrated on actually, our members in Nairobi and its environs. You will also maybe know that nearly 60% of the cooperatives in this country are concentrated in Nairobi County. And so actually by reaching out with this program, we have been able to reach a large segment of the cooperative members in Nairobi County. But that said, we are now considering to have actually branches of the cooperative COVID virus response committee in the counties in conjunction or consultation with the Council of Governors, so that in fact this impact is also felt at the county. So we are in the process of extending what we have been doing so far to the counties. But again, I should also add that even then, cooperatives within different counties in this country at their level have actually been trying to see ways and means of mitigating, the effect of the COVID-19. And one area where they have been instrumental, apart from providing whatever other support that they can provide, has really been in the form of educating and sensitizing their members on the government guidelines, such as social distancing, such as the need to wear masks, such as actually hand washing, and in the absence of soap, actually sanitizing. So this is also what we have been doing as part of our response to our members, within Nairobi County. And this is also what cooperatives in the counties outside Nairobi, at their own level, in their small way, are also actually trying to do. So moving forward, we intend to set up branches of this committee and work with cooperatives in the counties. And we will do this through a partnership with the Council of Governors.
PS, there's a question from Kelly Gitai on Twitter who is asking that please ask the PS what the ministry is doing regarding the issue of fraud in SACCOs.
Thank you. Now, first of all, let me admit that like every other sector, especially where matters of money are concerned, there have been some fraud in the cooperative sector. But let me also qualify that the bulk of the cooperative societies in this country are actually vibrant. They are actually giving excellent service to their members, and members are able to actually access, relatively cheaper loans, to their members. But then we still need to deal with a few errant members in the sector, who actually have perpetrated fraud or abused their office. Now, normally, this is provided for under Section 58 of the Cooperative Societies Act through the Office of the Commissioner. What normally happens is either through a normal inspection by the Commissioner of Cooperatives and his staff, or through a complaint by a member, or in fact, on the advice of the regulator, that is the SACCO Societies Regulatory Authority, or in fact, any other entity, such as a county, we then undertake what is called an inquiry. Now, the purpose of undertaking the inquiry is to be able to establish whether, in fact, there have been issues of governance in that particular SACCO. Now, if there is a finding through the report that indeed there has been some misgovernance in that society, there are a number of actions that then the commissioner takes. One, he can surcharge, equivalent to the amount of money that has been lost. Yeah. Now, he can also remove them from office and debar them actually from holding offices in future. He can also actually remove the board and put an interim board pending election of the real board through an election by them. So there are a raft of measures. Okay. Now, we may not have put them in the media, but all the time, this is the work of the Commissioner for Cooperatives, as well as actually the regulator. That is the SACCO Societies Regulatory Authority when it comes to the 174 deposit-taking SACCOs, okay, which are under their regulation. Now, what then has happened is that when the order is given by the Commissioner, the enforcement of that order is normally done through the cooperative tribunal. Once that order is issued, it then becomes, because it's a quasi-judicial, entity, as you know, or an administrative tribunal, it is an order like any other order given by the courts. Now, what has then happened is that in many instances, after the order has been given by the tribunal, then the affected officials have gone to they have appealed to the High Court. Now, once that appeal is lodged in the High Court, then what happens is that it's like any other court process, yeah, and we have only wait for the outcome of that court order. Okay. The court case. Now, in certain instances, after we have actually carried out an inquiry, and we now want to do an enforcement order through the corporate tribunal based on the findings that we have been able to establish, yes, through that inquiry report. Actually, what has happened is that, again, officials of that, and when we have removed them from office, they have rushed to court and obtained an injunction. So there are a number of cases that are actually now in the courts where we are asking to get, an injunction or actually await the appeal process. There are also a number of cases where fraud has been suspected, where we have referred to the DCI, and that investigation is actually good. But again, for the many that we do either refer to DCI or are going through the court process, there are many that we have been able to actually resolve the issues, and as a consequence, those societies or SACCOs today are existing and very vibrant.
All right. Many thanks, P.S. Ali Noor. Unfortunately, that's all the time we had for tonight. Thank you so much for creating time to speak to Business Redefined on the issues of the cooperative movement, savings, as well as the impact that COVID-19 is having in this sector. Remember, this is a key player in the financial services, formal financial services architecture in the Kenyan economy. And we'll continue to follow up on some of these issues. If you recall Ushirika Day last year, President Uhuru Kenyatta gave a number of directives, including the facilitation of an inter-SACCO exchange, just the same way we have interbank lending. We are waiting to see how that unfolds. Up next, we have the Markets Review.
Markets Review, proudly brought to you by Business Daily. More possibilities.
Now let's take a look at how the stock market closed the day today. If you look at the numbers on your screen, we had the NSE 20 share index closing at 1949.82 points. In terms of change, year to date is down 26.54%, and change day on day, that is compared to yesterday, is just down marginally by 0.39%. So definitely investors there taking a hit. Moving on to the foreign exchange market, the Kenya shilling against the US dollar closing at 106.42 points, down marginally by 0.1%. The Kenyan shilling against the sterling pound at 132.21 points, up again marginally by 0.32%. And against the euro, there was no change compared to yesterday, therefore closing at 119.28 points. Therefore, it has been a relatively quiet day from both the Nairobi Securities Exchange and the Forex market, and that is how the markets have been today.
Market Review, proudly brought to you by Business Daily. More possibilities.